tell us a bit about what is MITRE and what role do they play in the cybersecurity landscape?
This is, part of a couple of things we've done. Last time we talked about OWASP, which is a volunteer organization, but a great industry standard that the cyber leaders and engineers should be leveraging. This time we're going to talk about MITRE. Now, MITRE is a federally funded research and development center. So the government pays for a few of these. There are a bunch of restrictions around them, but essentially they're a think tank focused on critical infrastructure, aviation, the defense industry, healthcare, things like that. They within cybersecurity, they're best known for their CVEs, the common vulnerability and exposures. So if a new virus comes out, the name and the number and all that we as an industry track, it's all coordinated through MITRE. Common weakness enumeration, they do that. And then what we're going to talk about today is all the resources that help us track and evaluate threats out there.
I mean, as you rightly mentioned, we have talked about MITRE attacks, before on the show. Now it's time for us to also talk about what exactly is MITRE attack.
So it's an acronym. It stands for Adversarial Tactics, Techniques, and Common Knowledge. And so some people call it a framework, some people call it a matrix, but it's basically a list of 14 tactics that make up a methodology for attack. So one attack may use, reconnaissance, initial access, and then lateral movement, and then basically it's going to execute ransomware. So that ransomware attack wouldn't have used all 14 of these, but others use all of them. And so it's just a way as a CISO that I think about, somebody attacking, how they do it, what they do it. So again, across those 14 original steps, similar to the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, then there's 200 techniques and over 400 sub-techniques. And what others haven't done in the past is, within lateral movement, these are making up a number here, these are the 20 techniques used for lateral movement. And then it breaks it out because we're not all the same. And so there's an attack framework for just a typical enterprise. Be it, Windows, there's a separate one for Mac, a separate one for Linux, separate one for cloud, and containers, hypervisors. Then there's another entire category for mobile IOSs, and then industrial control systems and SCADA devices. And so as we think about these, it's been tailored how people attack based on what kind of infrastructure we're using. So that's very beneficial. And then ultimately, if you've gone out before, some security vendors will use the attack evaluation. So you can go to MITRE and have them evaluate your defensive tool. And you can also get your people certified in, the MITRE Attack Defender, the MAD, training certification program. So just a tremendous resource on that side.
How would a CISO actually use it?
It's interesting. I'll tell you, one of the things I used to love about this when I was using it really is just to measure the maturity of my program. So, as I look at this, I've got, let's say 10 tools out there. And 5 of the tools are on prevention, and 2 of the tools are back here on, stopping exfiltration, data loss prevention, things like that. And so, I've got the bulk of my 10 tools on the 2 ends. Well, if somebody gets past that first one, it probably makes more sense to have 2 tools up there and then 1 or 2 tools on each one of the steps. So as they try lateral movement, as they try internal discovery, as they try, all these different steps they have to do, that give me multiple chances in their methodology to stop them. And so I really like to look at this first as, a measure of how truly flexible is my cybersecurity program. And if I stop lateral movement, if I stop, different techniques across the board. The second thing I do is I use this for threat training. I'll go talk to the coders and say, hey, this is how people are breaking through the things you're building and basically destroying them or committing fraud against our company. I'll go down to my security operations center SOC analysts, and I'll have them train up so they can recognize when they see different threat groups and their methodologies and say, well, if I see this kind of indicator, then I should go look for, if I see they have access, and I should go look and see, have they exfilled any data? Because that's just great training. My red team's an attack team, my pen testers, I may say, hey, go use, this with a criminal group and give me a real world attack based on real world techniques being used out there. The threat intelligence teams can build some custom products out of these. And then finally, a tabletop exercise. If I want a scenario, I should just go in and pull a scenario directly out of here with very little effort. So again, number one use is, maturity, but number two is tons of different training opportunities.